Hello, I'm Bill T. Jones, Artistic Director of New York Live Arts. Welcome to the final day of the Live Ideas 2021 Altered Worlds, Black Utopia in the Age of Acceleration. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge and offer deep gratitude to Lenape Hoking, the ancestral homeland of the Lenape people where New York Live Arts is located. Today, we are activating not 2, but 3 spaces. Here at Interspace at New York Live Arts, the installations are open from 2 to 8 p.m. And this evening, we will be at Times Square with an outdoor performance of Saul Williams's The Motherboard Suite. The festival will close with a cosplay under the iconic city lights. This afternoon's event marks the beginning of a partnership between New York Live Arts and the Center for Arts, Migration, and Entrepreneurship, CAME, at the University of Florida in Gainesville. We would like to thank CAME for organizing and sponsoring this event. We would also like to thank the Cultural Services of the French Embassy for supporting the screening of Reincarnation. And now, I would like to welcome the Director of CAME, Osubi Craig.
Welcome, and thank you, Baba Bill T. Jones, for that wonderful introduction. My name is Osubi Craig, and I have the honor of serving as the director of the Center for Arts, Migration, and Entrepreneurship, affectionately known as CAME, in the College of the Arts here at the University of Florida. We are physically located in Gainesville, Florida, on the indigenous lands of the Timucua and Patano peoples. We are gathered from near and far in this virtual space that has been cultivated by our new partners, New York Live Arts. I must first take a moment to thank New York Live Arts, Bill T. Jones, Janet, Kyle, Hannah, Victoria, Liliana, for all the time, meetings, and energy it took to get us here. A special shout out to Blair and the whole Crux Media crew. And additionally, a special thanks to our team at CAME, Haji Ali and Kathy McKee, for all of their incredible work. I come to you today first as a drummer, a percussionist, musician, and as an artist. I send greetings to all of my artist community, colleague, family, and friends. Let me introduce our all-star panel that we have for you today. Our moderator today is a friend of many years and a brother of the arts, D. Sabela Grimes. Sabela, aka Oversoul 7, is a transmedia storyteller whose creative practice draws directly from a mix of socio-historic observation, self-explanation, speculative exploration through layers of interconnected sonic, visual, and kinesthetic arrangements. Sabela is a futurist, an educator, a performer, and an innovator. He's also on faculty at USC's Gloria Kaufman School of Dance. He continues to cultivate fundamentals, metakinetics, a movement system that draws on layered dance training, community building, spiritual practice, evident in the Black vernacular, hip hop, and street dance forms. What's happening, Sabela?
Peace, peace, peace. What's up, Ocean B?
Hey, brother, it's great to see you. It's great to see you. I got to keep going, though. I got to keep going to the people. Ambrose Idemudia, known as Ambrose T-Jark, is a dance artist, a fashion designer, a stylist from Nigeria. He is a founding member of West Side Lifestyle, a dance crew set up to propagate Afro-urban culture and lifestyle and to secure its legacy for generations to come. A pioneering crew at the forefront of the aesthetic development of Afro-urban dance culture and its comprehensive lifestyle. He is also the artistic director of WAC NG, a fashion brand, and is a performing member of the QDance tribe. Ambrose, I see you there. Even though you're muted, I see you there. I know you're there with me. Next, Miss Adila Omotosho, also known as Adila Rings. She is an entrepreneur, seasoned performer, philanthropist, professional acrobat, choreographer, creative, and artistic director. Today, Adila is the creative director of ADA Studios, Adila Dance Acrobatics, pushing the boundaries, setting standards, providing jobs through the arts, and promoting alternative means of entertainment to expand the creative industry in Nigeria, positioning the country as a tourist attraction to drive that are the goals that drive this young, energetic, artistic entertainer and entrepreneur. Adila, it is great to see you. Next up, Qudus Onikeku. Q is a movement artist made of diversity. Over the decade, he has established himself as one of the preeminent, multi-talented artists, working today in different media, performance, research, installation, curating and community organizing. He is the artistic director of Nigeria's preeminent creative organization, QDance, the People's Center of Lagos. Qudus is our inaugural maker here in Kane. His current research investigates solutions to the questions of who owns viral dance moves and other entrepreneurial challenges that artists face today. He has created a substantial body of critically acclaimed work that ranges from solos to group work, as well as artist-to-artist collaborations with visual artists, architects, musicians, writers, multimedia artists, and scientists. And next up, the woman herself, Onye Ozuzu, is a performing artist, dance administrator, choreographer, educator, and researcher who also serves as the Dean of the University of Florida College of the Arts here in Gainesville. Actively presenting work since 1997, Ozuzu has presented nationally and internationally. In her body, she has negotiated the intersectionality between movement forms from tennis to ballet, West African to hatha yoga, freestyle house to salsa. She seeks the relationship of utilizing dance as a tool rather than a person of habits. I want to take a specific moment to speak specifically about Onye and her role as not only a dancer, an art curator, a choreographer, but also how these things and the tools that she is working with come together in her administrative work. And so, Onye, we are so happy to have you today here with us. Good morning.
Thank you for that, Osubi. It's good to be here with everybody.
Most definitely. Before I turn it over to Sabela, I need to set the stage for the people so that they understand what they are in for. So, Blair, I want you to play the first video that we have that shows just a little taste of what dance gathering is, which in many ways is some of the connective tissue to this conversation. Wow. What's interesting for me is that that video in many ways was my calling into this conversation. I saw that video in 2019 and was blown away and absolutely excited. I didn't fully understand what I was looking at. I didn't understand exactly who were the people that were there, but I recognized that there was something for me as an artist that was calling me to that and calling me to that conversation. And to now be in 2021, to have many of the key elements and the key players that bring that together on a continuous basis, I'm excited for it to lay the groundwork to this conversation. So let me get out of the way. Sabela, I turn it over to you because I know this conversation is going to be amazing. Enjoy.
Peace, peace, peace. So to everyone who is using these mediums to bear witness to this conversation, I respectfully ask you to take a moment to think about one thing that you're grateful for. And while you're thinking about how you can enter in being saturated in gratitude in the way that I am for this moment, this moment of harmonic convergence, this moment of alignment, of dimensional diasporic beauty, this moment where we have the intention to amplify our energy and our energies. We are laughing in our mother's tongues. We are moving with the feet of the future. I am excited. Can you tell? And if you can't, check your pulse. It is we're gonna get right into it. Q, Onye, Adila, Ambrose, are y'all ready? Let's get it cracking. So there's this current right now as part of the festival. The undercurrent is this notion, this idea, this stream of thoughts, this conversation, these discourses, and for some people, a very static idea of what Afrofuturism is. So, Q, we've had conversations around what it is and what it ain't. Let's dive into that just as an entry point. Um, and let's bring in the fullness of what you're doing, what the center is doing, and how um, there's multiple layers. There's an expanding and contracting to how we are actually living in some of these ideas of futurism, Afrofuturism, and ancient futures.
So, do I bring Onye to start saying something about that?
Just passing the butt. Okay. Absolutely. Thank you, Sabela and Q and New York Live Arts and Bill T. Jones for pulling us into this moment of community together. The work that the Center for Art and Migration has been honored to help to incubate as our first inaugural maker in residence, Qudus Onikeku, made in collaboration with Ambrose and Adila and 8 other dynamic Nigerian artists. Reincarnation, I think in some ways that word in and of itself, reincarnation, is a interesting conversation starter in terms of a response to that question, like, is what we're doing Afrofuturist? Qudus and I, when was that? Like, I don't know when that was, 2018 maybe, we started having that conversation 18. Where we were asking ourselves, we were asking each other back and forth this question, like, what if reincarnation was the existential assumption upon which the apparent society in which we lived in, it was based, right? So our orientation around a linear idea of time and its orientation in the performance of existence that drape words like colonialism and capitalism and patriarchy, et cetera, on them. They are oriented around an assumption about time and existence that those of us that have even dipped our toes in the philosophical and existential assumptions of African culture know is just different. And so if we assumed reincarnation as an existential base, then what? And so for me, is that Afrofuturist? Well, if I, I grew up back and forth between Nigeria and the United States, and, I can't count the number of playmates I had whose name was Yetunde or Babatunde. Mother comes again, father comes again. Like, I can't count the number of playmates, and that idea that mother and father always come again, I think throws the idea of past and future into another kind of space. So we are, I am, was, will be. And I think that that is the context within which we assert our work. And at the center, we are seeking to simply facilitate the work of human beings that exist consciously in diaspora cultures where art making and resource extending are integrated consciously into what they do. And Qudus is certainly a maker that is right at the vortex of that. Is that Afrofuturist? I would have to leave that to those people that are articulating the language of Afrofuturism. I would just love to talk about the work that we're doing, and then I would love to hear from them as to whether they think that what we're doing is Afrofuturists.
Yeah, I think to answer that, I think the very first thing that has been at the base, I remember in 2018 during Dance Gathering, the theme was body and memory. And it was within the conversation of memory and remembering that that word reincarnation started playing in our mouth. Like if we are talking about remembering, if we are talking about memory, especially body memory, which of course is also connected to the DNAs and all the other scientific discoveries that we've used to explain it one way or the other, then we realize that the memories we are also talking about, which is in connection to our body, it's not just about our own lived memories. It's also about the memories of the ancestors and, the amount of incarnations that we have come and gone through. And if we then imagine that living or existence is not about the linearity in time, it's not about you live your life, then you go to heaven or you go to hell at the end, and there's a finality to that. But if you imagine it as a secular occurrence, where you no longer even have the possibility to point where it started from, where we are, and where the future is within the circle or within the spiral. So then, when we as dancers, when we move, we know, I don't know about many other dancers, but the way I move, I know that there are layers and layers of memories that are stuck inside that body that wants to come out. So the question then becomes, what is this memory? Who's at this memory? What are they trying to say? So if you put the concept of reincarnation, which is that of rebirth, of comeback, at the base of thinking, then you ask yourself, where precisely in the cycle of time did slavery happen? Where within the cycle of time did colonialism happen? Then, furthermore, all of these people, all this lynching, all these killings, all these rapes, all this violence, all these bloods in the history of slavery, of colonialism and apartheid and all of those kinds of violence, all of these people that died, where are they now? If they are back here to accomplish what? To finish up on what? That for me is much more a pertinent question more than whether it's Afrofuturism or not. You know, those are like, what are we here to accomplish? Bob Marley said we have to fulfill the book. When and how are we fulfilling that book? I think that's much the beginning of that conversation more than an aesthetic conversation.
So thank you, Will. We just saw a couple of minutes of 2018 dance gathering that reel and moving into this next right cipher dance gathering cipher. You've chosen to call it Beyond Afrofuturism. Why?
I think again it's more about that, especially in the post-COVID era. There is all of a sudden this sudden burst, or let me even say post-Black Lives Matter era. There is all of this sudden burst and interest in blackness, in black products, in black people, black bodies, in black thoughts, in black thinking, as if it was a kind of a new thing, as if we just discovered it. So I'm afraid that we get to a point where the conversation becomes a theme, that we lose touch on the journey itself and where it's been coming from. It's not new, you know. And also importantly, if we think of Afrofuturism only from the point of view of the Black American experience, we also lose touch of maybe 90% of Black people in the world. When we here in Nigeria, we're struggling with the powers that be, we're struggling with same African, not just African, same Nigerian politicians at the top of things, destroying the amount of work we are making happen on a daily basis. We're fighting tooth and nail every day in the terrain. Where does Afrofuturism sit in the midst of all of that? You know, when you have a situation whereby the headsmen are creating chaos on a daily basis, there is answers going on. There is all of this conversation on the continental level that is also going on. There is all of the conversation going on in Paris with the people in the suburbs, in South Africa, in Brazil, in Cuba, in in Ethiopia. All of this conversation is going on about people trying to take care of their own life, becoming agents in the creation of their own destiny. What are we talking about when we speak of futurism? When we say I cannot breathe, when we still have to talk about breath, when we have to connect breathing to the problems of race, what are we talking about? This is primal things. These are not they're not fantasies. So for me, I'm like, before we go too far into the world of fantasy, there is also a lot of work in 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 settling the now, this very moment now. There's a lot to be done in that space already. I do not say that I don't subscribe to Afrofuturism. Actually, I subscribe to everything. Afro-pessimism, Afrofuturism, Afro whatever. Anything Afro, I subscribe.
And so you also subscribe to Afrobeats.
Very much,
Hey,
because that's your heartbeat.
hey, hey, hey.
That's the heartbeat of this very moment.
And so when I'm thinking, just really thinking about how you and Onye are talking about cellular memories, these circles. We want to talk about how this way of being through movement. Yes. And really bring in let's bring in Adila and Ambrose. Ambrose is having some connection challenges, but it's all good. Hey, 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 Ambrose. Oh, Adila. What are we bearing witness to right now? Adila, can you hear me? Hey, check, check.
Yes, I can hear you.
Ah, nice.
This is the
What are
fire
we bearing
queen.
witness to? Yes. Go ahead, Onye.
No, I was just gonna say this is the fire queen, Adila. This is the first time I saw this particular video. I was like, what? When I first came to Lagos, you know, Adila was already on everybody's lips. People were like, oh, you don't know who Adila is, for real, for real. Like Adila has already created dances that have gone viral. People all over the world are doing her dances. Adila was like, yeah, I'm just back from China. I was like, who is this woman? But we were meeting on the dance floor. We were meeting in dance gathering space. We were meeting in improvisational space. We were meeting in a space that was deeply egalitarian and grounded in the earth and in our bodies. And so it wasn't really until the years after, when I started following her on Instagram, that I started realizing what a powerhouse this woman is, and how she is the center, driving elemental force of a whole movement that includes bodies and dance and fashion and aesthetics and spirit, and also economics. And she's building economic viability for herself, for the dancers that work with her, and for a whole community. She's an organizer, she's an administrator, powerful Nigerian market woman in a new marketplace. Yes, yes, absolutely. And you know, Nigerian
Yeah.
market
Put
women
it
are
that way is precisely what it is. She's
exactly,
a market
exactly.
woman, modern day
The
market
market
woman.
woman, absolutely running shit. And I learned a lot. Adila, I want to tell you that just watching you, I learned a lot, and it helped me to have an understanding. It helped me to have a lot of the understandings that even led to the existence of CAME and the development of the Center for Art Migration and Entrepreneurship. Because we were together in Lagos when Black Panther dropped. And when Qudus and I were having all those arguments about Black Panther, because I was looking at the aesthetics upon which Black Panther was raking in all that money. And as a Nigerian woman myself, I was like, why is that money all flowing to Disney? That's our stuff that they're selling. Those are our products. We made all of that. And they were marketing it up and down West Africa. All those posts and all those articles in Ivory Coast, in Senegal, in Nigeria, in Ghana, they were pointing out everybody's stuff, like, go see the movie, go pay your money to go see the movie. And I was looking at people like Adila and Ambrose putting out content every single day. And I was looking for them to get properly acknowledged and remunerated unabashedly for the fact that the engine and the driving force behind the swelling of Afrobeat, how deeply that was firing the engines that led to the phenomenon that was Black Panther. And that it's time for us to use all the resources at our disposal to make manifest the fact that this is our Oja, this is our marketplace, global marketplace. And the fact that we have, for in whatever way, been spread across the world, and Niger is everywhere, Nigeria is everywhere across the world, means that we have an opportunity to flip the script on the slave roots and to assert a global presence, a global economic, aesthetic, artistic, productive presence. And Adila, you're a market woman in that space. Tell us about how it is. Tell us how you're living.
Yeah, talk about what you're doing in Abuja, because I made even after I've been working with Adila for almost 4 years now. For dance gathering, she's been coming consistently, and then she's part of the QDance Company. But not until I made a national tour in April that I went to Abuja to see what she's doing. I went to see what all of these people are doing in their various states, and to see the way she's controlling a huge movement, and a huge community of younger dancers than her. That's when I begin to understand properly, because when you say we are a network of networks, it sounds cool, but to really understand what that means, because she got a whole network, of young people that she works with. Then I bring together a group of leaders, community leaders in those at that level to be part of reincarnation. So reincarnation is not just the people that seek dancers. We were not specifically looking for dancers. We're looking for those who themselves are powerhouses. And so really, I think Adila, it would be useful to just take us through what you're doing in Abuja and also talk about your community, how many people and all of that.
Okay. Firstly, I want to say thank you to New York Live Arts and the People's Center for bringing me up. So far so good. Here in Abuja, the industry, the dance industry, is not as big as Lagos. You know, the heart of art in Nigeria. So it's been a little bit difficult to actually stay up on your game as an artist, especially in the northern parts, because of how dance is being perceived. If you're an artist in the northern space of Nigeria, you know, they don't really value it. But so far so good, from learnings, from consistent visits to Lagos for dance gathering put together by the People's Center. It has helped to shape my thinking and also to actually help me understand better the insights of my career trajectory and shaped the line of my career. We have a huge number of artists here in Abuja, and with no major platforms and no major how will I put it? There are no major platforms to actually, you know, put dance on the map, especially here. So what we've been able to do so far is to create a space, like a safe haven, where artists can be themselves, where artists can be free to express themselves and to thrive. So what we do is we've been able to use dance as a tool to build the economic base of Nigeria, in the sense that we use dance as fitness. We go to organizations to teach them dance. We also use dance as a tool of healing. We also use dance to communicate to people, to entertain and to educate people. And this has actually been able to help a huge number of other young artists like me to earn a living. And yeah, so basically it's been amazing here.
Let me give you a context, Sabela. Nigeria is a country of 211 million people. 62% of that number are below 25. I'm talking about 62% of 211, almost 150 million people. Now, to give you another context to what 150 million is, Ghana is about 6 million people. Gambia is 2 million people. Benin Republic is about 5 million people. Senegal is about 14 million people. I can count 10 countries in Africa, in West Africa, and it's still not up to 150 million. So imagine the young people in Nigeria, they can, by themselves, form almost 20 countries in West Africa. Now, 80% of that number unemployed, underengaged, nothing, no single attention paid to them. They don't include them in political process, economic process, nothing. Now, 80% of that, naturally, Adila, tell me if I'm wrong. I can categorically tell you that 1 out of 3 young Nigerians are dancers.
Of course, that's true.
1 out of 3. So the market we're talking about is about 50 million people who are dancers, because dance is the easiest thing they've found as a way of surviving economically and also having a voice. They take their phones, direct their phones to themselves, do whatever they can do with their own body, go to whatever app on their phone to edit it, bam, it's on Instagram in the next minute. People are now watching that all over the world, and they are making incomes. So dance becomes like the easiest form of economic activity for young people. And those are the kind of people Adila is talking about.
Woo! So to quote, Onye, were you going to say something?
I just wanted to ask a question, but go ahead.
Yeah, please ask.
Well,
I have
I
the
mean,
connectors.
I would be really interested to hear Adila and Qudus connect that picture that you just painted in the numbers and the energy and the tool of Instagram and the online tool of the marketplace, and connect that to what happened in NSARS.
Yeah, Adila, please talk about the Abuja, because you were also part of the Abuja movement.
Yeah. For the Abuja space, there was literally no specific leader to the NSAS protest. There was no face to it. It was just a movement, and that is also how Afrobeats to us has also been like a major movement as well. It all started, and everyone just, I think everyone just got to like understand, you know, the power of um, of us being as one indivisible entity, and everyone literally just came out to protest. Dancers, musicians, call it wherever space of art that you're from, and it all just started that way. And we just get BCs from our WhatsApp or from our phones, and everyone just came to, the meeting point, and that was it. So, and I could tell you for a fact, if there were 1,000 people at the space at the forefront of NSAS, 800 would be dancers. Yes, 800 would be dancers.
There was, so all of these things, there is no disconnection between them, because when you make something your number one economic activity, it also becomes your habit. It becomes something that you know how to do very quickly, very easy. And this whole idea of virality, or let's call it challenge, when something challenge and they all get on it. And I'm talking about, you need to see some of the videos. I mean, you're seeing what Adila just showed us. Nobody is funding Adila to make these videos. And that video look expensive, right? But I can also tell you that maybe Adila spends, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe if you spend 20K. Like if you really spend,
More than
you
that.
know, because most of the thing that I'm trying to get at, they've understood something that even my generation didn't understand. I'm just 10 years older than Adila. They've understood collaboration, cooperation, and making it happen together, bring all the skill set together in a way that you look at the economics of that, and the economics is not hinged on money, on the flow, on the actual flow of currency, but they've turned the currency into something else, which is really what market women is really about. It is cooperation. It is a susu. It is you give me, you give me. Then when it's your turn, I give you. That was how they were creating most of these things. Adila didn't pay all these dancers to do all of this, but they would rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. They give time and time and sweat just to make 1 minute video for Instagram. And that for me is what really killed me, because their sense of goal, what they want to achieve, it's not anything complex. We just want to achieve a 1 minute video that we're going to put, that's going to come out of Abuja, and people in Lagos are going to say, wow, have you seen what the Abuja dancers did? That for me is the art of the corporation that also led into something bigger called NSAS. It started from that understanding of that little act of cooperation and partnership and collaboration, which for me is the real asset here.
So we're really talking about building upon these these valuable institutions, right? The marketplace. I'm just going to keep circling back Onye, we've been talking about the marketplace, right? And these systems of intelligence, right? Of cooperation, of collaboration. Sometimes people will flagrantly say, oh, collaboration, like that's easy. No, these are systems. And these are also systems that take a lot of listening and improvisation, right? Um, Systems that also require us to be present in that moment, right? What worked 2 weeks ago that was then. So I would love to bring in the mix, right? Um, Onya, you said this the other day. I'm gonna quote you. Hold on, I think we got sound.
How do I say?
I love shout out to Osha B, who is like the straight up VJ right now. What y'all thought y'all was coming to a regular panel? Stop playing. We got a VJ in the house. Shoot, we got a VJ team between Osha B, Craig, and Veronica. I love it. Anyway, circling back, I mean Blair, excuse me, and Veronica. Shout out, y'all. Shout out. Oh, that's what y'all kept seeing, huh? Got you. Check it out. So I want to quote you, Onye. We were talking about what we are doing, right? And you said we manifest and remanifest the technology of our culture. We are talking about technology as culture and culture as technology. So when I hear Adila speak, when I hear Q speak, they are speaking directly at the center, from the center of what you're saying. And what I'm also hearing is there's a very clear intention and integration of economics and dinero, money, kwacha, right? Planta, like whatever you want to call it. And let's really speak about the economics because we understand the social currency of it. What Adila is doing is all over the world because of this technology, right? We just use this as a tool to build on culture as technology and technology as culture. This just becomes a tool, correct? And so let's talk about we got the social currency, everyone loves it, they're sharing it, they're liking it. But let's talk about financially what that means for us and really what you all are doing at the center as well.
Absolutely. Um, I mean, in listening to Q and Adila talk just now about SARS and what happened in SARS, and the part that I remember Q talking about how quickly they raised money for that movement as well. People would just put the word out. They set up a GoFundMe or something similar to that, and the donations were flooding in from all over the world.
Even
Correct me,
in
Q?
blockchain, there was a time
Yeah,
when the government made it difficult to get money on locally. People started using Bitcoin. That
right.
blew me away.
Yeah. And so I think that what we're seeing, what we saw demonstrated and what we're seeing demonstrated is dance as a cultural technology laying a foundation for an economic social justice movement that feeds itself, that brings in doctors to handle when people are have needs in terms of their bodies, that takes care of itself in the moment and can be activated like that with the spirit of collaboration and improvisation in the moment. Adila just said the power of us as one indivisible entity. An entity is a body that has a consciousness, right? So she's talking about a body, a multi-bodied entity made up of our bodies on top of our bodies on top of our bodies on top of our bodies, spread across horizontally in this moment, but also through the dance and what we understand and know about the dance that digs down deep into our ancestry and forward into our future,
Through
right?
reincarnation.
So I go back to that idea of what I said about reincarnation being an assumption of our existence. If you think about what is money, right? So Qudus said, what was slavery? What is money in a context that assumes reincarnation as an existential base? The first thing that comes to mind, an image that comes to mind for me is, and anybody that has practiced West African dance in New York, in Baltimore, in Chicago, in Lagos, Nigeria, in Oyo, in Pangshin, Mararaba, in Cuba, right? We know that when somebody's daughter or son gets in the circle and starts giving it up, their head opens up, their heart opens up, their body opens up, and we see that they are in that moment of divine translation, that the masquerade is present. What do? We shower money upon them. We throw dollar bills. We throw naira. We throw money upon them. And I've asked people all over the world, why do we do that? Just to hear the stories come from people's mouths, you know, that when people understand, like, it's a ritual act that's deeper than what your mouth can say. But what people say about it is like, yeah, we cover them. We have to recognize that we have to let the community know that that one is in my family. We also have to recognize that what is coming from their body is inherently valuable. And just because you are present, you are blessed. Because you are present in the presence of that body, dancing in connection and in communion in that moment, you are blessed, and the money must flow. And the money is not for them, the money is for you. You giving the money out of yourself assures your blessing. It seals your blessing. It seals the benefit that you will receive, right? That exchange, it's a demonstration of the exchange of value, and honoring the exchange of value, as Qudus was talking about, calling out the exchanges that market, at the base of the economics of the market are these communal exchanges of value. That money is not the controller of it. It is our relationship to one another. Anybody that's had, I think about times when I was studying Rasta culture, for instance, and I don't remember the name of it, but one of those old movies that was showing Rasta culture in Jamaica, whenever money crosses hands from one person to another, they say, control this. They don't say, keep this for me. They don't say, make sure you pay me back, right? They say, hey, my brother, control this. They recognize the relationship, the intersection between us as human beings, of us as part of one indivisible entity, as being the primary. And the money is something that has to be controlled for the role that it's supposed to pay in symbolizing our exchange of value amongst us. And so for me, I think that there is economic technology in the design of that can absolutely help us to reaffirm who we actually are, right? And so that also gets back for me with this idea of, is it a futurist movement? I see it almost like a body healing itself from a rash, right? Like if I have a rash, that's an indication that something is unwell within me. I can cleanse that unwellness out and my skin will clear up. So I see that in many ways, the work that we're doing in the center is to give incubation time and access to development for workers at the intersection of cultural technologies and our abilities to sustain ourselves, so we can dig into technologies like control this. We can dig into the cultural technologies of the marketplace. We can think about the correlation between how women sold rice and yams in the marketplace and how Adila is fostering dance as rice, right? And we can think about those economic and cultural technologies on their own terms, so that we can heal ourselves from the rash of capitalism, from the rash of colonialism, and from the way that the separation and endless proliferation of difference and division upon which capitalism operates, we can figure out a way to cleanse ourselves of that rash and reassert who we actually are and rest in the power of us as one indivisible entity, to quote Adila.
And Q, with us thinking about the economics of our cultural production, right, that then get appropriated and put into video games. And we've already talked about, Wakanda and Disney, and then of course the re-up with Black is King. They were like, we made a lot of money on this. Let's re-up, right? So we won't go that route right now, but let's talk about what you're thinking about with the center in regards to authorship, possession, ownership, and the economics of the movements that are created through Afrobeats.
Yeah, it's interesting where we landed now, especially after all you said. Um, it's been a while, especially most of these people making these works, Adila and thousands of Adilas all over Nigeria, and it appears to me, it appeared to me that the intricacies and the layering and the way at which we are analyzing this, many of these young people don't have that level of analysis, but they're so deep into the thing that they're not really in the game of analysis. They're just doing. And in that doing, there's a whole lot of conversation being generated, a whole lot of value, a whole lot of products, a whole lot of content that is being generated. Then you go to Russia, you see it show up. You go to Amsterdam, you go to Paris, you go to New York, you go to Chicago. I'm like, what? And because I travel a lot, I'm like, wait. These guys are asking me for $2 for lunch yesterday, and their stuff is showing up all over the world. This is the new sugar man. I'm like, no, we're not going to allow these happen again. So when I was invited to Kane to be the maker in residence, it was clear to me that if I'm going to be part of these kinds of privileged space, I want to find a way to figure out within the midst of all of this thing about AI, blockchain, motion capture technology, all of this technology. The basic question we want to ask ourselves then is, when a movement goes viral, who owns it? Can we even think of copyrighting a dance move? And all of this question I'm asking them not because of their sake. I'm asking them because I'm thinking about the guys in Lagos. Like, how are we going to bring the money back to Lagos? That's like the number one thing in my head. Then I came to the US and I realized that Fortnite Fortnite created something, but at the same time, it was within the old structure of appropriation and cheating and violence and misappropriation, and the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. So you came up with the logic that actually we can motion capture those viral movements and we can put it in a game and people can buy it for as much as $5 per movement. Hey, we're not talking about a dance piece. One movement. That for me was like, what? I remember when we used to be on tour, we would dance like crazy. Every new show is $200. You dance for 2 hours and you go on with $200. Then in that piece of 2 hours, imagine the amount of movement in it. But technology tells us just take this. It's like NFTs. Just take this. No, is too much. 2 hours movement is too much. Just give me this. And I put it in a loop. And that is $5 per view, per buy. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. But the problem, it's not about the technology, you see. It's not about the tool. It's about the mind who are behind the making and the propagation and the curation of that tool. Because as we speak, there are about 10 different lawsuits against Fortnite, who made over $3 billion in 2018 alone from selling emotes in their games. Then they don't have the decency to return $1 million to the owners of the movie. Not even 1 million out of 3 billion. Then I thought, no, we need to do more. Rather than being on the side of ranting, like, oh, they stole our dances, we need to start being part of that conversation of AI, of blockchain, of NFTs, of all of those new tools and those new marketplaces where those conversations are being generated. And the way to do it is to create our own tools, create our own spaces, so that when I create a tool and I tell to all the dancers in Nigeria, no more putting your stuff on Instagram, no more putting your stuff on TikTok, no more putting your stuff on YouTube. Let's create our own gateway. Anybody who wants to come in then pays you. Because at the bottom of the assumption that created Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, it's not Black people and repatriation and reparation. They're not thinking about all of that. They're thinking about content, colonization, and colonization.
Yeah, I mean, everything you're saying is built off of a legacy of, if you're thinking about what happened in the last couple of 100 years here in the Western Hemisphere, is if you don't own your body, how can you own what the body produces? This is the mentality. If you don't own your body, and so people literally have this, they, whether consciously, subconsciously, unconsciously, whatever, they think that Black folks produce just, and it's free for everybody. There's a buffet of cultural production and everyone can just come up free of charge, right? um and so we are part of a continuum of Black folks that say, whoa, slow down. And now with this use of technology, we've of course been talking about blockchain technology, and in principle, the whole idea of decentralized, exchanges and contracts and all of this. And we will continue to be a part of this flow and this conversation and insert ourselves and link, as we just talked about, our technologies, our cultural technologies that we've been using for time, right?
Right.
We're
Yeah.
not divorcing ourselves from those.
And I think that there's a number of interesting little intersections to tease out here. So as I understand it, when IP was first being generated, intellectual property laws were first being generated around dance in general, you could copyright a choreography. And choreography was defined as a sequence of movements that could be sort of identified along a linear path as a chain of movements that were chained together. And so if I was a choreographer that choreographed an evening length work, that could be copyrighted, right? And I could claim ownership of that. It could be videotaped. It could be clear that I was the choreographer. It lasted from, da-da-da-da for an hour and a half, and it was worth whatever, and nobody could reproduce it without my permission, et cetera, et cetera. But when people started to ask the same question about our about dances as they typically exist within the African diaspora, where dances are developed and grow within local cultural dance circles, within ciphers, right? A kind of marketplace where individual improvisers endlessly improvise on a shared cultural language. You're like, oh, well, how can you give IP for that? It doesn't belong to any one person. That's just a social dance. It's just it's a folk dance, right? And in higher ed, intellectual circles of dance, it's like, oh, well, those are folk dances, right? And even in those contexts, right, it was difficult to even attach intellect, conceptual rigor, choreographic formality to any of the endeavors of social dancers, right? That somehow that didn't have the same level of artistry, something that you could then identify as having sort of being a member in the rarefied space of high art, where our European cousins have established a methodology for ascribing monetary value, right? But all of that is being interpreted on a base economic assumption that is different from the marketplace that we're talking about, that asserts, I'm going to keep saying this thing that you said, Adila, is so powerful, that asserts us as a power of one indivisible entity. It is all our money, our money. It's our value, our money. If it produces value, that value needs to come back. The capitalist market wants to know exactly who they're going to pay. The Africanist marketplace says, I don't care about all that. Throw your money in the circle. The women and children or whoever's on the side is going to pick it up. Don't worry, it's going to get back to who it belongs to. Don't worry about that, right? That's the energy of the marketplace, because when that money gets thrown on the dancer, a lot of people run around and pick up the cash, right? And in the African marketplace, nobody is worried about, oh my God, are they stealing the dancer's money? People, that's not the issue, because the dancer is a manifestation of us as an entity. Throw your money into the community. It's going to be okay. It's going to flow, just like these dances flow. They all flow. We have to be able to articulate that as an economic model that is built for sustainability, because hello, it has sustained us through the unimaginable. We're still here, alive and kicking on many, many levels. It should interest the human race as a whole to solve the looming apparent problems of this moment. How have Black people made it to this point should interest the biggest thinkers of this time as the Anthropocene looms, right? And people are still, struggling over, oh, are we going to be two political parties, or what's going to happen next, right? We struggle over these. Nobody wants to just look and say, wow, how have African people survived? Maybe they know something. Maybe we know something. And so I think that there are things to tease out, right, in the definition of a movement. Our dances have always been structured in a way that allows the entity to choreograph. The entity,
and also it has always been an act of virality in itself. So that's why the Instagram and the viral nature of the ways at which dance get disseminated now is not in any way new to the African sensibility. And for me, when you then create laws that doesn't protect that, you are only being dubious, because you know that those who are on the other side stealing, they are going to pounce on the fact that your law does not protect these kinds of stuff. So if you look at it again, it's very racist. The law is very, very racist, because what the law says it can protect is what is connected to ballet at the root of it. But that which is connected to the African ways of being and making is the one that we cannot protect. You cannot protect it, but somebody just made $3 billion from selling it. It must belong to somebody, So the tool we are creating with UF is titled, is what we call Atunda. Atunda means recreate or reproduce in Yoruba. And what we want to do is to create this app that allows for people to treat it like a kind of a data bank. Because what you need to do in that case is you say, okay, we cannot copyright a dance move because your law is still retarded. We're not going to argue with it, but we're going to find ways to boycott it. What we want to copyright is no longer our dances, because your law also say that at this age in 2021, we can actually copyright our data. So data rights is what we're talking about. We're not talking about dances anymore. Because actually, when I'm dancing on the street, that is dance. But when I'm dancing on Instagram, that's not dance. That's my data on Instagram. So we're going to boycott the conversation about dance law or no dance law. Let's go into data right. And how do you turn dance into data? It's what we all have been doing for the past 10, 15 years. We record ourselves. That recording in itself is data. You upload it on Instagram, that's data. Now, Instagram is being dubious by telling me that I don't have the right to own my data on Instagram. That's the real problem is. So when you create a tool that allows for people to own their own data, then it becomes easier trace. It becomes easier to talk about IP. It becomes easier to say, this your data represent these 64-digit codes, and that 64-digit codes, it's your digital DNA. Anywhere it shows up on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, you can flag it up. So now computers can hear, but they cannot see. So that's why we are interested in getting enough data sets to be able to teach AI to know how to see and how to recognize dance moves and dance traditions coming from African perspective. And then AI can do the job for us of running out of things. Now, what we are interested in is not the whole idea of copyright. Actually, we're interested in copyleft. That is to say, the more you steal this movement, the better for the owner of it. So we are actually saying steal this movement because AI is keeping record.
Say word. So we want to, bring this cipher to a close. We actually have a question. Um, the question from Janet is question statement question. This is exciting, but this is finding a way to play the capitalist system. But even decentralized blockchain technology exists inside of capitalism. Um, is there no alternative to capitalism? And can you speak about the difference between an embodied culture and a disembodied one, like the U.S.? Not sure what that. How does that shape social structures? So these are some things to ponder. And as we ponder those questions, and if any of you all want to just give a brief sort of response to any of those questions, let's bring Osubi, now aka VJ Osubi Craig, back in the mix.
Thank you, Sabela.
I guess my short attempt to throw out just not an answer to that question, but maybe a question to as a response is capitalism really something that essentially opposes what it is we're trying to assert? Or is capitalism something that needs to be controlled and put in its proper place in the whole of us as an entity? So if we set ourselves up as trying to oppose it, right, or game it or play it, in some ways we're giving it too much conceptual power, even in our own thinking. Exchange of goods and services didn't begin with European trade, right? We were trading. We were already trading. And people have been trading all over the world, right? Capitalism is not some capitalism. And when I use the term rash, I mean it because it's an embodied phenomena. It happens to a body. And because the rash is not of the body. The rash is an inflammation of the body that's an indication of an imbalance. So capitalism is not necessarily an enemy that we need to cut out from ourselves. Capitalism is an overinflamed aspect of ourselves that we need to control and get in order.
It's like the same conversation about AI, AI being this or that. It's not, we need to be very careful about how we get involved in an established pattern. It wasn't invented by those who propagate it. It's like saying religion invents spirituality. It doesn't. it didn't. Commerce and trade has been our thing even before the white man showed up on the continent. So let's stay on that and let's leave definitions.
Well, I'm going to splash a little gratitude and pass the mic to Osubi,
Most definitely.
Adila, Ambrose, Onye, Q, Veronica, Craig, Live Arts, Baba Bill T, Janet. We appreciate you all. Osubi, back to you. Thank you all.
Most definitely. Sabela, thank you for playing the master inside of the ring and getting all of the parts to move as everybody's jumping in and out. We appreciate you for holding the door open for everyone. This was fantastic, and as we thought on the front end, not enough time to just begin to scratch the surface of the conversation. And I hope that everyone who has come, I hope that you've enjoyed and that you lean in and connect with everyone. In your link to get here is a way to connect with all of these incredible artists. It's a way for you to connect with our center, Center for Arts, Migration, and Entrepreneurship. We ask that you reach out, connect, keep the conversation going, and know that we are just in the first third of this day. So I'm going to stop here so that we can stay on schedule, because we're already chasing time, because time is not linear. It's always moving in a circle. And pause so that we can actually go into the theater right now and actually see the piece that in many ways is the anchor of the work that we're doing today, which is Reincarnation. It's North American debut. And so I hope that you take some time to plug into that and know that on the back end of that is another incredible conversation. That's going to be Baba Bill T. Jones, Qudus, and Onye sitting in between, provoking and playing the provocateur to keep that conversation moving in many wonderful spaces. So sit forward, jump to the next spot in inside of Inner Space, and let's keep the conversation going. Thank you all so much for the time, and we will be back soon. Peace.